The crowd is chanting, one more piece. This is a historical moment here in Indianapolis. Oh my goodness.
2023 was a peak year in Yu-Gi-Oh! With incredibly powerful sets, archetypes, and staples released into the game, an all-time high events attendance, and a skillful display of incredible duelists on the main stage. This was one of the best years for the game ever. And this year also came with some incredible moments caught on camera during one of the many YCS and Premier event streams Konami has provided us. So sit back, relax, and enjoy. Grab a drink and some popcorn, because these are the top 10 moments of Yu-Gi-Oh! In 2023. So before all that, a personal thank you from me to you. 2023 was a transformative year for me in terms of the game and Yu-Gi-Oh! And my content creation career. But yeah, we almost quadrupled our audience throughout the year. We worked on growing our communities over on Twitter, on Discord, and recently over on Twitch as well. And you have to go and follow right now. Leave everything. Just go ahead and follow. Twitch.tv/GalzoTCG. But in all seriousness, I really want to thank all of you watching this from the bottom of my heart. This year was amazing. I had such a great time creating content for you, and I'm really looking forward to a wonderful 2024. And with that, let's get into the best moments of the year, starting with number 10. Number 10, the 3v3 YCS Las Vegas Finals. During the finals of the Team YCS that took place in Las Vegas, we were able to see something that was considered relatively rare, although possible, in the format that took place after the obliteration of tier limits in the recent Forbidden and Limited list, leaving Kashtira as the top deck to beat. Dominic Couch piloting Kashtira faces off against John Wilkin piloting Branded Despia in the finals. Uninterrupted, Couch builds up a Kashtira board, utilizing the likes of number 89 Diablos' the Mind Hacker to dig further into his opponent's deck and extra deck. He manages to end his turn with the Dream Kashtira board, consisting of an Arise Heart, a Shangri-Era, not one but two, and of course Diablos' the Mind Hacker to top it all off, locking out 5 spell and trap zones on Wilkin's side of the field. As Wilkin starts playing his turn, his Aluber gets immediately banished face down by Couch's Arise Heart, meaning that Couch can now proceed to lock out an additional 4 monster zones on Wilkin's side of the field, leaving him with only 1 to play with. The image of the new zone blockers Konami provided players covering Wilkin's entire board became an instant meme overnight, showing how ridiculous and powerful the Kashtira were at the time and how badly they deserve to get hit on the next Forbidden and Limited list. Number 9, YCS Lyon Finals. YCS Lyon was a unique event. It took place at the height of the Tier Limits Ishizu format, a Tier 0 format which will be remembered in history, but also had 2 important caveats to it. Number 1, it also happened after Photon Hypernova released, meaning that the natural counter to Tier Limits, Kashtira, was already out and in full power to counter it. And number 2, a Forbidden and Limited list was already announced prior to the event, essentially obliterating the tier limit strategy. This means this was players' last chance to play the tier limit Ishizu deck at full power. In the finals, we saw Anthony Lopez taking on Christopher LeBlanc, a multiple YCS champion, both piloting tier limit Ishizu at its prime. Not really having any important or interesting moments specifically in this final, but this, in my opinion, was one of the great moments of the year, being able to see a tier 0 deck at its full power for one last time, piloted by 2 great duelists. Number 8, YCS Dortmund Finals. One of the last European YCSs of this season saw its final being fought out by 2 relatively less known duelists. Julius piloting Rikas and Avalon faces Lucas with Vanquish Soul in the finals. One of the funniest moments throughout the entire duel was definitely a Sunseed Genius Loci staring down at There Can Be Only One on Lucas's side of the field, a card that has been limited since, not allowing the also powerful plant deck to continue its pure plant combo. I think this was a unique moment throughout 2023, seeing 2 lesser known duelists facing it off in the finals, one of which attending his first YCS ever and ending up taking it all home, battling it out with 2 relatively weaker decks in the finals. It was just kind of a rare thing to see.
Lucas Janssen is your YCS Dortmund champion 2023.
No, he's not.
First.
It's Julius Schwarzkopf.
Oh my god.
Number 7, the Yu-Gi-Oh! World Championship. The Yu-Gi-Oh! World Championship in Japan. The first championship in years, taking place after the COVID era, combining Duel Links, the TCG and OCG card games, and now for the first time ever, Master Duel as well. There wasn't one specifically great moment to be mentioned here overall. While the streams leading up to the main event were lacking, infamously made fun of due to the grey office-like rooms the Swiss and Top Gun games took place in, the finals was indeed a celebration of Yu-Gi-Oh! Worth mentioning. Not only did we have an American world champion in Paulie Aronson for the first time ever, the top 8 of this event also consisted solely of TCG players, another first in the game's history. This moment is just an incredible celebration of the card game itself, with 2 amazing duelists fighting it out in the main stage, playing the best Yu-Gi-Oh! Of their life, and eventually crowning a champion in an exciting and emotional ceremony. This moment will definitely be remembered for me as one of the great moments of the year. Number 6. European World Championship Qualifiers Top 4. Now we are getting into the spicy stuff, the things you are here for, the greatest, the really greatest and like jaw-dropping moments of the year. While the World Qualifier Tournament on the NA side of the pond saw a very diverse meta with decks like Exo Sisters making a special appearance, the EU side saw players puddling their favorite decks and making no compromises, even in this important tournament that will decide who will be Europe's champion for 2023. Jessica Robinson from the UK, one of the most prominent players in Europe at the time, plays against another big name in the scene, Yu Ho An from Germany. Both piloting their decks of choice outside of this tournament as well, Rickus and Avalon and Labyrinth respectively. While Yu-Ho got to go first in Game 1, we saw a masterful ability to break the board apart by Jess, little by little, facing cards like Super Polymerization and Daruma Cannon, and even more. Jess ends up taking Game 1, which is already an incredible start, breaking an entire trap board apart, going second, not a small feat at all. Jessica now leads 1-0 in the best of 3, and as Yu-Ho sets 5 face-down cards alongside his field's back row and passes the turn back to Jess, they both start laughing as the crowd starts chanting loudly. Jessica continues to the main phase, and with a huge smile on her face, she places down the Harpy's Feather Duster on the board. In an act of pure sportsmanship, Yu-Ho shakes her hand and she moves on to the finals of the 2023 EUWCQ, eventually becoming the European champion for the year. Number 5. The 250th YCS in London Finals. A YCS champion and a world competitor, Samir Bashar is another very well-known name in Europe when it comes to successful duelists. During the finals of the 250th YCS in London, we saw the French Samir dueling another well-known name that we'll talk about later as well, the German Tom Kleingraber. Samir piloting his favorite deck of the era, Sprite, taking on Tom piloting arguably still the best deck in Kostura. While Samir loses Game 1 by playing heavily into Nibiru, he bounces back and claws his way into victory in Game 2. Tom starts and locks 3 of the 5 monster zones on Samir's field. He puts up a formidable Kostura board that will be a great challenge for Samir to play through for the all-important Game 3 victory, who will decide the winner. Samir starts off by summoning Kurikara Div Incarnate, a card that has been a staple during that era due to its ability to take out huge threats by tributing them. He tributes the Kostura Shangri-Ira, freeing up his monster zones. Since a Rise Art effect is mandatory and will now have to activate since his Shangri-Ira was banished, Samir is free to drop his second Kurikara, tributing the all-important threat on the board, leaving Tom on just 2 monsters to fend for his life. Triple Tactics talent takes care of the Fenrir on his board, and Samir proceeds to masterfully build a board and eventually kill his opponent on the very same turn, winning the 250th YCS in London. Number 4. Joshua Schmidt's victory in YCS Bologna. Joshua Schmidt's display of dominance in the round leading up to his victory were just a master class in Yu-Gi-Oh! For those who aren't aware, Joshua Schmidt is one of the greatest names in Yu-Gi-Oh! In 2023, if not the biggest. Multiple YCS champion, Master Duel World champion, and one of the most successful content creators on the scene as well. Just a jack of all trades. Going into this event, Josh attested to the fact that there wasn't any deck that I felt had no weaknesses or were better than all the other decks, so I just decided to play what I liked, which ended up being Runic Bestial, a deck that was relatively little known during the past few months and was definitely not expected as a meta threat in Bologna's top tables. While Josh didn't really think he could win the event, it became clear that it might actually be happening. Josh played with insane amounts of confidence in the deck, outplaying his opponents and showing the world that he is still one of the greatest duelists alive. My friend Garet made a video about Josh's dominance throughout the years on his latest video, so go check it out on his channel and learn a bit more about that. Number 3. German National Finals. Two of the most accomplished German players face it off in the finals of the German Nationals in 2023. Piloting Kasia, Tom Kleinegruber, a player with over a dozen of premier events tops, including a second place finish, which we already discussed in the 250th YCS in London. On the other side of the table, Dinka Boy, one of the most innovative players in Europe, who consistently manages to top and be featured on almost every event that is streamed in Europe in the past couple of years. Tom wins a die roll, goes first and kicks off his Kasia combo while starting to lock some back row using Shangri-Ira. Starting off with setting some cards to prevent some more zone locking, continuing into a super polymerization to get rid of the Arise Heart, Dinka manages to break the board, take control, and actually win the game 1 while going second with the trap deck. Game 2 is a quick one. Tom lets Dinka start, clears his only back row with a Cosmic Cyclone, and proceeds to OTK. What happens in game 3 was just comedy. Dinka normal summons Orianna, adds a big Welcome Labyrinth to the hand, and sets 5 back row and passes back to Tom. Both duelists grin at the sight of this massive back row. In Tom's draw phase, Dinka fires off a big Welcome Labyrinth into a lovely Labyrinth of the Silver Castle, which is then tributed for, of course, an Eradicator Epidemic Virus, declaring spells against the spell-heavy Kasia strategy. Tom responds with a Cosmic Cyclone, but proceeds to reveal another 4 spells in his hand, and additionally a Fenrir, which could start his combo but is then destroyed from the hand using lovely Labyrinth's effect. The turn passes after Dinka normal summons the Orianna he has just bounced back to the hand. Tom extends the handshake, making Dinka Boy the German champion. Number 2, YCS Indianapolis. Another display of dominance, in my opinion, was Steven Santoli's run to victory in YCS Indy this year. Again, if you want to see a more in-depth video, I will link Garet's video on Santoli's win as well. But for now, let's talk about why this moment is here on the list, and specifically in number 2. Santoli, a YCS champion, a Worlds qualifier winner, and a World Championship competitor earlier this year, pilots the relatively new Sinful Spoils Rescue Ace deck after the release of Age of Overlord. This tournament is the first tournament to take place after the defining Age of Overlord set release, and all eyes are watching on who will become the new king of decks. In short, Santoli's performance was just incredible to watch. A dedicated, focused, and almost surgical approach in a highly intensive duel with great moments caught on camera. This victory showed the world how great can one player really be, piloting the deck, flawlessly outplaying his opponent on every turn, and eventually taking down the win in the event as well. And at number 1, and if you haven't guessed it, is Jeff Leonard. You've heard about it, you've seen it everywhere. This is probably one of the greatest moments that I've seen as a Yu-Gi-Oh player live, maybe ever. And yeah, sure, this is not a competitive Yu-Gi-Oh moment, but I'll explain why I think this deserves the top place. If you don't know Jeff Leonard, he's a duelist that got into the game a while ago after his son introduced him to Yu-Gi-Oh! He's been piloting janky, funny, toxic, and sometimes legendary decks since then, every now and then making a headline or two in a tournament. He's best known for his success with Mystic Mind Burn, a deck that has seen a ton of play since, eventually getting the card banned on the forbidden list. There's nothing much to add on top of the experience of seeing 2 Exodia win conditions resolve on stream during the same match, but I will only say this. If you haven't seen the full duel, please do yourself a favor and check it out. While Jeff's deck was a gimmick meant to do a single thing, and it is not an actually good or competitive deck by any means, and while his opponent was caught in the crossfire and handled it like a champ, kudos to you, Justin. This moment has brought a huge smile to a lot of people's faces, and this is why I think it deserves to be number 1. This is a moment that reminded players why they even play this game, reminded them of their childhood, reminded them of legendary anime moments they have watched as a child. This feature match and Jeff's success in it symbolized for me how great 2023 really was, and how great the Yu-Gi-Oh community really is. Some things just managed to unite us despite all of our differences, and this moment was definitely the one to do it. So thank you so much for watching the top 10 moments of 2023. Leave your comments below. Did I miss any moment? Or maybe you think a different moment should have been number 1. And again, don't forget to follow me on Twitch. We need those follower numbers up. So go over there right now. Don't wait. Twitch.tv/GalzoTCG. And of course, as I mentioned in the beginning, Thank you so much for an incredible 2023. I'm really looking forward to creating much more content with you guys in 2024. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful New Year's. I'll see you in the next one. Peace.